about the Tao Te Ching. Now, the Tao Te Ching is a book that I really delved into, many months to a year back, and I've almost forgotten all of it. Now, Taoism is something that I was very interested in for maybe a month, and I was very focused on trying to understand what the Tao was. There's a lot of descriptions of this seemingly trans-dimensional and ever-present Tao, the force that is always behind everything, always kind of guiding everything, but also going with everything. It's very hard to understand. It's very paradoxical. So the Te Ching is a great book for trying to understand this central power and essence behind everything that can only be discerned through delving into oneself, cannot be discerned through actions in the external world, because actions in the external world that are not accompanied with internal action are destined for failure, are destined to lead back to the very beginning one began with. Now, I'm going to read a few quotes from the Tao Te Ching, and this book is a book that I've had for quite a while. But once again, I was only interested in it for about a month, and I did a lot of online research into Taoism. And actually, I know a lot about Taoism, which I'm still really confused about the relationship between Taoism and Taoism, because we lost so much information about Taoism when the first Chinese emperor, Qin, decided to destroy all religious books and all books that didn't concern either political or agricultural or otherwise philosophical or effective means to help the state. All knowledge that was not effective in helping the state be the state and helping people fall into line with it were basically burned or discarded. So we have lost Taoism almost completely as a religion, and it had a lot to do with, of course, the immortals achieving immortality through personal health, through getting into contact and purifying the five meridians along within our own body, and really valuing what animals can teach us, what spirits can teach us, and how they conserve energy and how they use energy, and also, of course, meditation and the deeper truths that are beyond this material world. But there's a lot of facets of Taoism that I learned about in one audiobook and another book that I was able to scrounge up, but there's very little information on Taoism left. And of course, martial arts is part of it because it allows you to direct your energy both back into yourself and outward when you're doing certain actions, even if it's not violent, even if it's not in combat, even though it can be used that way. But regardless, I'm going to read a few quotes, not from Taoism, but from Taoism. The difference is Taoism has a D at the beginning, and Taoism has a T. And of course, Taoism is way more philosophical than spiritual, in my opinion, just from the little bit that I remember. But I'll be reading a few quotes from this Tao Te Ching. So, and I'll be giving my perspective on them, basically. And I didn't mark any of these. I'm just going to read them based on random pages that I open up. So, 26. The heavy is the root of the light. The unmoved is the source of all movement. Thus the master travels all day without leaving home. However splendid the views, she stays serenely in herself. Why should the lord of the country flit about like a fool? If you let yourself be blown to and fro, you lose touch with your root. If you let restlessness move you, you lose touch with who you are. So all of these are very divine or very deep statements, but what I'm getting from this is especially the last part of why should the lord of the country flit about like a fool? If you let yourself be blown to and fro, you lose touch with your root. If you let restlessness move you, you lose touch with who you are. So it's basically that last stanza really gets to me in the heart of not being blown by this world. Even if you travel with this world and kind of travel along it, glide through it, allow yourself to not be stationary, to not be basically a tree in this strong river, at the center of this strong river that is constantly pounded against, and eventually will uproot and be tossed down into the stream, into the river, and carried off into the grander scope of things. Um, Restlessness and the opposite of restlessness, which is solidity, staying in one place, having one ideal, and stubbornly maintaining that ideal against the universe as it changes, are two opposites that are not to be taken up. When you're restless, you cannot focus on anything for any length of time, and you cannot develop anything as a result. You cannot develop your skill or your understanding in anything. But if you're solid and you're unmovable and you just focus on one aspect of anything, then eventually the changing of the world will blow you down because you did not choose to change with the world. It will uproot your ideal and send you flying because you did not focus on anything else, and thus you did not have knowledge of all the different currents in the river. This is just kind of my own analogy, but I hope that was interesting. Anyway, let's go to another page. I'm just picking at random. Let's see what we got here. That's way more than the stanzas. Hold on. Alright. Weapons are the tools of violence. All decent men detest them. Weapons are the tools of fear. A decent man will avoid them except in the direst necessity, and if compelled, will use them only with the utmost restraint. Peace is his highest value. If the peace has been shattered, how can he be content? His enemies are not demons, but human beings like himself. He doesn't wish them personal harm, nor does he rejoice in victory. How could he rejoice in victory and delight in the slaughter of men? He enters a battle gravely, with sorrow, and with great compassion, and if he were attending a funeral, as if he were attending a funeral. So, this talks a lot about how, even if you have to go to war, it's important to realize that war isn't an end in and of itself. It has to only be taken upon ourselves, as far as the action of battle and war, defending one's people, defending one's nation. It should be only taken up as a last case scenario. And when it is taken up, you should not have the spirit of slaughter in you. You should have the spirit of duty, of contemplation of what you must do to your enemy, and not feel satisfied when you kill somebody. But realize that in defense of other people or your own land or whatever reason you're going to war, in defense of these things, you have to do your duty. So do it solemnly, seriously, with much contemplation and much compassion. Be compassionate for your enemy. And when you're compassionate for your enemy and try to understand them and try to see where they're coming from, not only will you be better in battle, you will be a better human being. You will come out the other side of battle and say, okay, I did what I had to do, but I did not enjoy it. And that's the way to be a warrior in the literal battlefield. Anyway, we'll do one more stanza, and this is just off the top of my head, the analogies and the dictation afterwards. So I just want to make that clear. All right, the last stanza that I'm going to read is, which is 78 apparently. Nothing in the world is as soft and yielding as water, yet for dissolving the hard and inflexible, nothing can surpass it. The soft overcomes the hard, the gentle overcomes the rigid. Everyone knows this is true, but few can put it into practice. Therefore the master remains serene in the midst of sorrow. Evil cannot enter his heart, because he has given up helping. He is people's greatest help. True words seem paradoxical. Now, I was kind of aghast at this one stanza. Therefore the master remains serene in the midst of sorrow. Not that part. Evil cannot enter his heart, because he has given up helping. He is people's greatest help. So, this one's hard to understand. He has given up helping. He is people's greatest help. So, the idea that the idea is that if you help individuals, you help individual groups, or you have a certain idea of, conceptualization of who is good and who is bad, and you decide which one you should help based on your conceptualization of good and evil. Um, Maybe it's saying that you don't necessarily help them, but you go along that stream, and your interests become one with their interests, those of who you consider as the good. You're not helping them as a separate group, but you become one with that good stream. Um, that's as much as I can say on that, because that one is actually the hardest out of these three that I've read. The soft overcomes the hard, the gentle overcomes the rigid. Everyone knows this is true, but few can put it into practice. So that previous stanza before the one I was just talking about is obvious. Of course, we've been talking about, like, it seems like Taoism has a lot to do with flowing in the proper manner. So water is soft. I'm a very water-based person. I'm a Scorpio, but more towards the water side of Scorpio. So I'm very adaptable, and I can flow around emotions and people's decisions and fairly well, and not be affected by them, not be scorched into steam, I guess you could say. But it's very hard for most people, and even myself a lot of the time, to adapt to this world, to what we experience in a way that maintains the path that we have chosen. Whether it be spiritual, political, societal, it's very hard to travel along the path that we have laid down for ourselves, that we have chosen, if we cannot be malleable to the alterations the universe will inevitably throw at us. We will inevitably be affected by our surroundings, whether it be through people or societal changes, even gas prices or food prices, or maybe road construction, the tiniest of things and the biggest of things. The biggest of things being war itself, a nation that is bombed and its way of life is severely altered because of that. There's many different levels of changes that the universe will throw at us. But what we have to do is be able to adapt, be able to move with time and space itself in relative to humanity as a single being. The more we learn how to be changeable and be able to alter our tactics like this, the more we'll be able to be successful, and the further we will be able to go with our own plans, our own goals, our own understanding, and the further that we will become ourselves. So thank you very much for watching. This has been a few stanzas from the Tao Te Ching. I hope it's been interesting. It's been kind of a hard day for me, and I decided to do a second video in order to kind of add on to what I'm trying to conceptualize this day as being. But thank you very much for watching. If you like this video at all, hit that thumbs up down there. It really helps out the channel. If you want to place a comment, if you want to ask any questions, and I can't answer a lot of questions about the Tao Te Ching because I know almost nothing about it at this point, because a lot of that information has been kind of scooted off to the side of my mind. But feel free to shoot down anything you want to say in the comment section below, and I hope to see all of you on my channel in the future. Y'all have a great day.